All right, what's up, innovators and kingdom builders? You're listening to the Hype Pod, real conversations on tech, innovation, and culture trends from a faith-filled perspective. This is episode 54. Today, we have an incredible guest who embodies the spirit of faith, resilience, and the entrepreneurial drive. From hustling candy on the playground to leading and thriving commercial painting business, and now serving as pastor, Luis Ponce's journey is a powerful testament to transformation and purpose. We're going to dive into how his deep faith has shaped his remarkable business ventures and life path. Welcome to the podcast, Pastor Luis.
It's really good to be here. Total honor.
Yeah. So how you doing today? Any big updates?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Just our 6-month-old baby is thriving. We're having the time of our lives.
Amazing.
Yes, and our kids are doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just bought a house. Congratulations.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the remodel,
Yeah.
which as a contractor, I thought it was going to be easier.
Yeah.
But we're enjoying it, enjoying
Yeah.
every moment of it. Yeah.
It's different doing it for your own house than for somebody else's, right? Yeah.
Yes, definitely different. But lately, I've just been reminding myself to enjoy the moments.
Good,
I think since the baby was born, I'm just like more aware of moments.
Yeah.
That I really want to maximize and enjoy.
I love that. Actually, good advice from me. I'm going through a home renovation myself, and sometimes all the decisions, you get a lot of decision fatigue, but just gotta enjoy the moment. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do this, right? And so,
total blessing.
In the Bay Area especially,
Yes.
right? So I wanted to chat a little bit about, let's start with your entrepreneurial journey. And so I know you started young, you were hustling a lot. You were hustling as a kid, as I said. You went to DJing, you had a catering company. Where did this spark come from? Was it instilled from your family, or where did it come from for you?
No, I think as a child, I naturally gravitated towards being entrepreneurial. Like I mentioned, I dabbled in a couple things as a teenager even. But it wasn't until I was part of the family business. My dad started a company in 2001, painting company. I was a teenager at that time. And I didn't really have a plan for my life at that time. I just really didn't thrive a lot in the school system, public schools. I just didn't feel like the teaching style was for me. And I started working in the family business in the summer. And then next thing you know, I'm working full time and getting a real experience on what it is to be part of a family business, which is its own dynamic. Like anybody that has worked in a family business, they have some stories.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about it. Is there a lot of pressure for you to kind of live on that legacy? Like, what is that dynamic when you're in a family business?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, there wasn't any pressure to take it over or anything like that. I think it was just, my dad trying to turn me into a productive adult. He had me work there in the summer, then full time. But I actually started off pretty bad. Like I was the youngster that wasn't focused while they were at work. And, I remember just not taking my job serious at all. It wasn't until I got married that I said, I have to really be responsible and be focused on my job. But definitely challenging. I'm not gonna lie. I had some of my sisters work in the company, mom and dad, and so if you're not equipped to work in a family business, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes.
And so for you though, you eventually branched out. You went from the family business. You stayed in kind of the same space. But you and your wife, who's your partner now in your business, you guys branched out. What was the kind of journey there, and why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, no, I think it came to a moment where we realized that my dad and I had slightly different visions of what we were trying to build. And at that time, I was trying to get clarity on what we were building exactly. And because I was putting in all my effort into this company. And just once I realized that we were out to build different things, I just decided, my wife and I, that it was time to start something on our own. And it wasn't easy. Like, I wish I could say, like, it didn't create any problems with the family, but it did. It was challenging. It was kind of a surprise to my father, even though we had plenty of conversations. But now I can say, like, we're totally good. Definitely learned a lot through it. But we were also looking for a bigger challenge. just a different space with more challenges.
Yeah, and so you moved into the commercial space, right? What were some of the challenges that you kind of faced getting into that space?
I would say the customer acquisition part. I honestly was pretty naive thinking that maybe I would run some Google ads, didn't know anything about marketing, networking, and I just thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
And so I looked at, all the capital I had to launch, and I'm like, oh, this should be plenty. And then realized that it was much harder than I thought. I didn't know that every type of commercial building had its unique way of acquiring that type of customer. And so we spent a lot of money trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so it was very challenging the first year.
Interesting. So your wife, who's your partner, Sassy, she helps on the business side of things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, she is amazing. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without her. She handles anything HR related, anything with being compliant with the state. And I handle more of the sales, the marketing, developing the team.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that she does that I wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
I'm just not equipped.
Yeah. Well, and I know like we often talk about picking your co-founder is like the most important thing. It's like a marriage. You ended up picking your wife. Was that a difficult decision to get into business together, or was it like obvious, like, yeah, we should get into business together?
No, honestly, we've been working together since we met in ministry, and then when we were part of the family business, she helped as well. Cool. So it's been pretty natural for us to always be working together ever since we met. And so when the opportunity came to launch the painting company, I didn't even consider any other option. It was like for sure that we were going to launch it together.
Yeah, and we were talking about kind of your other business as well. You have that Drywall Masters Inc., which is another business that you're a partner of. Tell us a little bit about that journey, because you found another couple in which you were able to partner with and start another business.
Yes, around the same time in 2022, we ended up launching Drywall Masters with our friends Victor and Suri, and it was very organic. When I met Victor, I wasn't thinking of launching anything with him, but things fell into place, and we felt it was right to partner with them, and they felt the same way, and we launched them at the same time. So it was challenging because you have two couples trying to launch companies and figuring stuff out, and it was almost like raising twins. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
It's like having twin babies.
Yeah. What were some of the things that attracted you to this partnership? Like, what was it that's like, oh yeah, I'm willing to kind of, because you're already starting one business, you're
Yes.
probably at capacity, kind of.
Oh my God.
No worries, no worries.
Let me.
Yeah, and so as I was saying, it was just you're kind of at capacity with this first business. Like, what were some of the decision making or the things that attracted you to starting another one with this?
Yeah, I think it was just alignment and values and desire to work together. I think when I met them, I knew I wanted to be in partnership with them. Sometimes you meet people that you know for sure that you want to build something together, or you want to do life with.
Yeah.
And as soon as I met them, I knew they were aligned in values and just amazing people.
Yeah.
It's been a great partnership since we started the company.
Yeah, nice. And so just from that kind of moment where you had the family business, you were kind of learning the ropes of what it took to run a business. How did you know you had what it takes to start a business?
Well, I was pretty much running my parents' company. I was a partner on that company as well. And so I was like a GM or just general manager for the company. And so the moment I realized that I had what it took was once I really started leading the company, it started growing. It started doing very well. And that's when I said, you know what, I think I have what it takes to launch our own company. So I think it was when I started to see results.
Yeah.
Yep, it wasn't just a matter of time, but when the concrete results started to come in.
Yeah, I love that. And so you have both these businesses, they both start up. As you go through them, what were some of those kind of like pivotal moments where you made some of the correct decisions or even the wrong decisions that made you had to pivot or continue on with it?
For sure, I would say it happened. The first big pivot was the first year where every month we were losing money, just spending more than was coming in. And I realized that we were on a trajectory to fail. And I guess we completely changed the strategy, and I went back to biblical principles, right, of knocking on doors and sowing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of switched the strategy from depending on someone else to have my phone ring, where I started cold calling. I started just knocking on doors, and we started to get the traction we needed. And so I was just so thankful that we were able to pivot, because we were on a bad trajectory.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing you told me on the call we had was you kind of figured out this new marketing strategy, right? Like doing content, which is not really something typical I think you've seen in your space, right? Tell us a little bit about that and like how you came about that idea of like, creating this kind of content.
So it all started as I began attending Vive. When I saw what the digital team could do with just a Sunday service and create this amazing reel, I said, what if I can do that for my business? What if I can create a similar reel highlighting the work that our team is doing? And so at that time, I reached out to a team member from one of the digital team, and yeah, they believed in us, and we brought them on board full time. So that was actually our first hire, because we understood that as a new company, we needed visibility.
Right.
And I had learned a simple process of visibility, credibility, profitability, which you first need to focus on being visible, and at some point people will put you in the category of credibility, and then the profitability will come.
Right.
And so I understood that, and as a new company, brand new in the market, I realized that we had to prioritize that. And so we started creating content. I was super nervous at first.
Yeah.
I didn't know how difficult it was to speak into a camera and do any video.
Yeah.
Took me a long time just to do a 30-second video.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just started getting comfortable to the point where I now really enjoy creating content. And yeah, definitely has helped us a lot to gain traction.
Yeah, you were telling me a little bit about like now your reach is kind of extended past the Bay Area. There's people noticing your video and your content. Even you were mentioning that the next generation of painting companies or like content creators are kind of noticing the stuff you're putting out.
Yeah, one of the things we did when we started doing content is we did a research in the Bay Area on just all the construction companies, what type of marketing they were doing and how often. And we realized that not too many companies were doing consistent marketing, especially video content. So we started that in 22, and slowly we began to see the younger entrepreneurs come up in our space, and they started following us, and then they started liking our videos. Yeah. And yeah, we've had some reach out that they want to collaborate, that just they want to come fly into the area to just create some content together. So it's been pretty cool. I went to a conference in Anaheim, and I had people say, hey, I've seen the videos.
Nice.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you find, like, because this is actually probably really important for a lot of business owners out there, which is you can build good product, but if you don't tell the story well enough to be able to, show people, it's hard for them to come, meet you where you are, right? What kind of content did you see resonated with, your customers and stuff? What kind of content hit?
Yeah, I think a lot of people enjoy the behind the scenes, just getting to know the ins and outs of your day to day. I think that one is always very popular, and it creates a lot of engagement. I think there's so many different types of content, but the one I find the most engaging is when either the founder or the face of the company is willing to do the content.
Yeah.
Because that's actually one of the advantages I have over other painting companies, is that the owner, the president, whoever, they're unwilling to get in front of a camera consistently. And yeah, it takes a lot to do it consistently, because a lot of them think, oh, I'll just pay someone.
Right.
But it gives me a big advantage when I'm there.
Yeah, I like that idea of like, you're the one that's kind of getting your hands dirty, right? When you kind of think of like the CEO, the president, it's kind of like they're the ones calling the shots. Other people are kind of doing the work. But for you, it was I need to be the one that's at the forefront of this. I need to be the one getting my hands dirty. And I think that might kind of lead into my next question, which is, you're kind of running these two businesses. How were you able to scale? Like, you're still getting your kind of hands dirty, doing the work a little bit. How are you able to scale and kind of do all of it? What was the things that you were able to do?
I think it starts with knowing how to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still in the process of learning and implementing some things, but I credit everything to just the church.
Yeah.
The way we build teams here at the church, just even having our huddles, just all that I've actually just implemented on the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say what has helped us grow and scale is building the team. So before, I used to think it was just about hiring, right? Doing the right interview and making sure that I had the best candidates.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that that's only the beginning. It's on me to equip them and actually create the environment for them to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
which is as practical as not setting expectations that are too high for them, meaning like first you got to stack up some wins to build momentum. And so I think when I began to learn how to build teams,
Yeah.
that's when things started to take off a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, a lot of the characteristics you have come from a little bit of your faith journey that got you here. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? You grew up in the church, but it wasn't like a very consistent journey, to get here. And now you're a pastor. Can you take us through that journey?
Definitely. So I grew up in church thanks to my parents who took me there as a child, right? But once I got to my adolescence, that's a very crucial time, right? You're trying to find your identity. Who are you going to be? And at that time, I just, I guess I experienced my first disappointment in leadership. I remember I had my youth leaders and all that, and one youth leader in particular just so happened to kind of go back to his old lifestyle, and I was very disillusioned because I said, what happened? I really looked up to this individual. I wanted to even dress like him because I'm a teenager. I'm about 16 years old, and so I was left, to just kind of figure things out on my own. And I just left the church from 16 to about 23.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, I just really, really went to a deep place where I was not only influenced by other people, but I became a bad influence for others. And I just look back at it as a very dark time in my life where I basically lived out the prodigal son story. My parents were always praying for me, and I credit the prayers of my parents for keeping me alive, because I put myself in situations where I could have lost my life or my liberty. And it reminds me of the proverb that talks about bad company corrupts good character. And, growing up, I had a stable home. Both my parents went to church, but all it took was bad company, and all of a sudden, I'm on a path of destruction. And around the age of 16, I actually got recruited into a local gang, did the whole initiation, and I was on the path for either death or jail. And God was so gracious. Within less than 6 months, something happened with the gang that they turned against me and they wanted to kill me. And so at that age, I'm literally fearing for my life. And that was actually the first time that I experienced God as a savior. Not only for my salvation, but actually for my protection. And along my journey, I've experienced him in different facets, right? But when you literally fear for your life, I don't wish that upon anyone. When you're afraid, when fear grips you and you think you're gonna find your enemies, at the grocery store. And so I lived like that for a couple years, and I got into the rap scene. I was doing Spanish rap, and that environment just put me in front of people that were very bad influence. And next thing you know, I'm consuming drugs. And a lot of times you think you're in control, but then you realize that these substances end up controlling you. And I became an addict at like 20, 21 years. I'm a straight up addict and just kind of living a double life. I was still working with my dad, but doing what I had to do to maintain the addiction, which was like very tough. And yeah, I hit rock bottom around 22, 23. And yeah, I mean, in order to maintain the addiction, I started selling it, because that was like my best way to maintain the addiction. And all of a sudden, I'm in the worst environments possible where, I'm in homes where they're selling drugs and just doing all kinds of bad things. And it was by the grace of God that I hit rock bottom. God allowed all these situations to happen. And at that time, Ceci, my wife, had just started the young adults youth group.
And this is at your parents' church.
Yes,
right?
This is at my parents' church.
Yeah.
And my parents gave Ceci my number for the youth group to call me. This is a young adults youth group. And so they start calling me on a weekly basis. And I'm like, man, it's these church people again. And my parents are telling me every time they see me, you need to go back to church. And I'm telling them, you need to mind your own business. Like, this is my life.
Right.
And I'm in that space. And it's not until I hit rock bottom that I'm like, where's that number again? And, I start looking for it.
Yeah. And at this point, you had not given up on your faith, but you were just kind of like a little bit removed from your faith at this time.
Yeah, it was such a unique time because I knew I didn't belong there. There was moments where, I'm actually drugged up knowing that I don't belong there.
Wow.
And that is, I would feel God tugging at my heart saying like, hey, son, you don't belong here. Yeah. And what began to bring the breakthrough was actually bringing this addiction to the light. I spoke to my parents. I said, hey, I actually have a drug addiction and I owe money to my drug dealer. Like, I'm in big trouble.
Right.
And man, my parents embraced me. I really felt the love of the Father through my parents. They brought me back into the home. I started attending the youth group, and that kind of led to the massive transformation. Once I started attending, things began to change.
Yeah, and you were about to not attend this youth group, right? Like, there was a moment where you got to, like, it was like a midweek essentially, right?
Yep.
And then you almost turned around, but there was a calling to keep going, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, when you're in rock bottom and you make the first steps to come back, when you're in the process of repenting, it is very difficult. People underestimate this process. And I remember so vividly, I went up to the door. This is like a midweek, and I was about to knock on the door, and I kind of froze, and I said, maybe I should go back. And so I stood there in front of the door with my hand up, considering if I should knock or not. And I ended up knocking, and when I get there, everybody seems so weird to me. I'm like, why are people so happy? And, I'm in this dark place, almost borderline depression. And, I just started to attend.
Yeah, and it's crazy how God works, right? He puts these people in your life that, obviously are of the faith. They're kind of following God. But even if your faith is lacking, just being around these people, like your parents showed so much love and grace, and then your future wife, Ceci, was able to kind of lead a group for you, and then help bring you back out of it. Tell us through that journey of, like, now you're kind of going to this midweek and, how you kind of maintained your faith through there.
Yeah, so I started attending, and what happened was in that phase that I was away from the church, again, making bad decisions. One of those decisions was, getting a DUI on the day that I turned 21. And so what that does is it gives you a bunch of consequences. You have to do community service. And I didn't show up one time, so they had a warrant for my arrest. And the detectives went to the house looking for me. And the most powerful thing that my dad did for me was actually turn me in. So they knock on the door, they ask for me, and my dad says, he's in the living room. So they take me in. As I'm going out to handle this just consequence, he tells me, don't worry, son, I'm going to be praying for you. And I was so fearful because I didn't want to go to any type of jail because I was in bad terms with the gang. And so I go in there completely fearful. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to get killed.
Right.
And so I do one of those Hail Mary prayers when I said, God, if you get me out of this, I will never look back. And I went in there and I literally prayed most of the day, most of the night. And as soon as I came out a totally transformed individual. God totally restored me from the drug addiction. It was a miraculous restoration. I never had to go to any rehab center. I never had any single struggle. What was very interesting through that transformation that God did was that for the first 6 to 10 years after that, I would have nightmares where I would relapse in my dream, and I would feel so much guilt, and I would wake up and say, "Oh my God, it was just a dream."
Yeah.
And so it was almost like God reminding me how I would feel, what my life would look like if I went back. And so once I experienced that miraculous restoration, I was radically transformed. The way I showed up to church was just on fire.
Yeah.
I was the first one there, last one to leave, trying to invite every single person I knew. And that way of serving with so much gratitude is very noticeable.
Yeah.
And at the time, the pastor just, I don't know, I think he was playing a little matchmaker because he asked Ceci and I to co-lead the young adults.
Okay.
And the rest is history. We started leading the young adults group and got engaged, got married, and we're about to hit our 14th year this year.
That's incredible. What a story. What a story of like turnaround, but also your grit, your determination to not give up, right? Your determination to say, yeah, despite what happened in my past, there is a future for me. How much of that translated to now, your skills to be able to start business?
For sure. The one thing I want to add to that is for many years, I wouldn't want to share it because of shame, and I think it's important to know that, our testimony is part of our journey, right?
Yeah.
And along that journey, you see God's mercy, God's grace, God's faithfulness, His love. And so now when I share it, it's not to glorify the past, but just to remind myself and other people that, man, when God does a work in someone's life, it is a powerful thing, and it shouldn't be hidden away, right? And so when I experience those sort of things, it definitely translates into the business because, I feel like I've experienced such tough times that when I look at a business challenge, I'm like, this is nothing.
Right.
I was literally about to lose my life. How hard can this work challenge be? And so it does give you more grit. When you've been close to losing your life, when you've been rock bottom, you definitely develop a different grit.
Yeah. And how does this translate to the people that you want to be around, or like what you want to instill in the people that you work with?
I would say it gives me the ability to see the potential in others.
Cool.
Because when I look at myself, I'm like, man, 15 to 20 years ago, nobody would bet anything on me. Like, I literally had no plan for my life. And so when I'm reminded of that, I'm able to develop people much differently. I don't just see them for who they are now. I can visualize the potential and get the gold out of them. So that's how it translates into team building and just building a company.
Yeah. And so for your current businesses that you have, do you feel like your faith is something that you openly share, within the workplace? This is something that a lot of people have, issues kind of doing, but like this is something that's changed your life in such an incredible way. And how do you share that in the workplace?
Yeah, I think you do have to be intentional. I think both of us have heard of, the strategy where you're pretty secret about it, where you're like, I'll just live a great life and, be a good testimony. But when they ask, I'll be ready, right? I do think you have to be intentional. I'll give you an example about our last foreman meeting, which are our leads. We try to give trainings that are not just about painting, but leadership and just personal development. And the topic was about how to become the best version of yourself. And so we dealt with just being healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so that allowed us to have a conversation on the spiritual side. And I asked them, like, hey, how important is your spiritual life? Like, and so we were able to intentionally bring that conversation into the workplace. And this is part of training. You know, it's a big part of ourselves to consider that. And so that's how I have found the best way to talk about my faith. I also do try to live a life that's worthy of imitating. So everything I do or don't do is processed through that filter. Like, is this going to create a good testimony of my character, or is this going to affect it? So every single action is run through that filter of, like, is this going to help me give a testimony of Christ or affect it?
Yeah, yeah. And actually, you mentioned that your motto or your mission, I guess, as you're building company, isn't just to make money, right? Like, you want to actually do this so that you can minister more people. Talk a little bit more about how your mindset isn't about making money. It's about doing excellence and building good business, but it's not just about making money.
Yeah, I think our focus is, obviously we want to be, aside from being profitable, which that is the most obvious thing, we actually want to be good stewards. That's my aim, and that's also my metric. So basically is whatever I'm entrusted, I want to multiply and grow, right? So, you know, it's not just the company and the resources, but it's the people. And so we want to create a company that provides real opportunities for our team members to, you know, even own part of the company and grow within the company, so they can have success in their financial area, but also grow as individuals. I don't want them to just come in and provide a service. I want to see them grow in their family life and just every single area. And so that's actually what we're after. One, we want to be great stewards. And two, we do want to create a company. And so we think that the money, that's going to take care of itself. Obviously, we do look at financials and all that, but we're more after the company that we're trying to build.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things that you did, so at Hype Network, the idea is to create this network of people that are trying to build for the kingdom of God, and those connections can kind of help scale everybody else to build the kingdom even better. But you actually were a part of a group like this that you started at your original church. So what was some of that heart that you had at the original group that you started that you see here with Hype Network?
Yeah, I think it started when I realized that sometimes we're not fully equipped on how to be the church outside of these walls, right? So we think that church is like, you know, Sunday service and the activities. And so when I began to see that, you know what, I think there's a calling on my life in the business world, right? And it was when I actually read the book Anointed for Business from Ed Silvoso, that opened up my mind to this responsibility we had as business owners, entrepreneurs, to be the church out there. And so at that time, at the church I was going to, it was a Spanish-speaking church. I asked the pastor, hey, what if we were to start a group for the business owners within our church to just create this networking environment where we pray for each other and we just share these connections, best practices, and we help elevate the businesses of the house so that as we are being more successful, we're also bringing more resources to the church. And so we started that, and what was interesting was that there were more people that weren't believers coming to this group.
Amazing, yeah.
And so at that time, we were like, okay, what do we do, right?
Yeah.
So what we learned there is that the best way to influence someone is to help them increase their quality of life in some way. So when we started helping them with just the basics of like creating a business plan and all that, we were helping them increase the quality of life.
Yeah.
And I realized that when you do that, you gain influence over them. And we were very strategic because we're meeting at the church, but we said, what if we serve them but we're not just after the invite where it's like, hey, here's these resources, but do you want to come on Sunday?
Right.
And so with some people, we actually took a while to invite them, but they knew we were part of the church.
Right,
They knew we were meeting up at a church, and that ended up being more effective. After a while, after we built some rapport and added true value, then that invite was more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And I actually think that's maybe the core of what I believe is to be a kingdom builder. It's not you're building a product or a service that's directly for the church, but it's really how you act and how you operate within that realm of the morals and principles of being Christ-like. And then you can kind of showcase that to the people that you work with, people that consume your product. And then the invite kind of comes almost as just an effect of them seeing the output that you do. And so it's really cool to see you embody that, kind of in your workplace and stuff, and in the partnerships that you do have. And something that you've actually impressed on me was the kind of legacy that you want to leave. What is that legacy that you want to leave?
Yeah, I think when it comes to on the company side, I want to create a company that empowers other people to lead the company, to lead themselves. And as we open the different locations in the Bay Area, I want to really, really allow those to grow within the company to ultimately run the different locations and have them be like an entrepreneur where they're almost like a business owner without having to take all this risk and put their livelihood at stake. So I want to create this really big platform for other people to grow where you don't have to carry such a big weight, and so that's when we actually already began doing this. Our business partner, Tony, who we brought on 2 years ago, he was also doing his thing. And I said, look, I can do my thing, you can do yours, or we can create something bigger together that will allow us to have the life that we want to live, which is, being able to do more ministry.
Yeah, and so with this, I think it'd be kind of nice to get your advice. You're a business owner, you've kind of done it. For the people out there that, are looking to start, they have an idea maybe, what's some advice you would say to kind of help those people get started? Maybe people that don't even feel qualified to start a business.
Yeah, the most important thing, in my opinion, is not the business plan. It's actually the why. Why would you want to do it? The reason why that's so important is when you hit those roadblocks, which you're guaranteed to hit, you need to be able to resort back to the reason why you're doing it, and that'll push you through the obstacles. A lot of people don't even start because they're analyzing if they have enough capital, if they have enough knowledge, and I would say a really high percentage of people never even start. Second, a good percentage of people quit too soon. They'll stop as soon as it gets a little bit overwhelming with obstacles. So that's where your mindset and your determination, the grit, it'll push you through those obstacles, and that's when you'll see the breakthrough. But I would say, like, the most important thing is knowing why you want to be an entrepreneur. It's definitely not for everyone. There's a saying or a way to describe entrepreneurship that I really like. And entrepreneurship is like getting punched in the mouth and liking the taste of your own blood. You're gonna get punched, and you're gonna really question if you're built for it. But once you tolerate that pain, where you're like, okay, yeah, this is difficult, but there's no other way around it. If you want to build something amazing, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So,
how do you feel like you, if you were to advise somebody, let's say I was like your steward kind of getting through this, how do you find that discernment in terms of, I need to keep pushing versus, oh, this isn't the right solution, I need to pivot and do something else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's going to be case by case. I think, you definitely want to have a team to give a very honest opinion. I think that decision shouldn't be made on your own, right? One of the things I highly recommend is having your team give an honest opinion at all times and creating an environment where they can tell you exactly what they think. There's another quote that I love that says, if you don't hear what your team has to say, you'll be surrounded with the team that has nothing to say, right? So it's this idea that, a lot of times founders or teams, they don't like healthy debate, right? And you actually want that because it takes a lot for someone to speak up. You don't want to shut that down. So when it comes to these really important decisions, you want everybody to be giving their honest opinion, and you're still going to end up having to make the ultimate decision, but you do want to hear from your team.
Yeah, I think that's really good to keep that door open. But then I guess the next follow-up is, then how do you kind of filter out the noise? Because a lot of, making a decision is being able to identify the right data points to use to make that decision. But then when you invite all these different voices, sometimes it can almost make that decision harder because now you have to wade through these data points that might not be actually be, relevant to you.
I would say it depends on the weight of the weight of the opinion of the individual, meaning that, like, let's say I have a track record with you, we've gone through some highs and lows, and I'll reference the stuff you've mentioned in the past. How wise was your advice, stuff like that. So one, I'm not just going to ask anyone, right? It's going to be people that I have a history with, where we've gone through some highs and lows together. And then I would really kind of filter the voices even before asking to see how much weight does their opinion have, how much experience have they gone through a couple failures, because man, when you speak to someone that has failed, it's a very unique perspective. Like, they'll give you a different vantage point. And so I would talk to those that have failed, those that have been successful. But I think ultimately, obviously, God, right? But there's times where, you've done your research, and you got to make that decision. What I would add to that is, it's better to have speed than take too long. Because if you're quick enough, you can recover. Most decisions in business, it's better to be quick to decide and have more time to make the adjustments later than to take too long and waste a lot of time just trying to decide.
Actually, on this kind of topic of like making decisions, like, it's a key aspect of being a leader. And one of the things that you just became a pastor this year, how much of that kind of leadership skill do you translate over from being a pastor also to a leader in your business?
I think the main skill set or gifting, right, from pastoring, which is to call out, the identity that God has instilled in people. It's very similar. Same thing, on the pastoring side, we are ultimately trying to lead them into the life that God has for them, right? And then on the business side, as we're building teams, we're doing something similar, and all those that have been successful will tell you that the relational side is really what changes not only the dynamics, but also the environment. And so once you understand that you're not going to be successful without good relationships, you will approach all your interactions much different. And so I actually, have always seen our team members more than just a worker, right? I don't even refer to them as workers. They're team members, and that distinction is so important, because even though we're leading the company, we can't do it without them. And so I think we're always thinking more about the individual as a person than the output that they give.
And if you had to, I mean, we're running up against time, but this has been an incredible podcast, incredible story, hearing it. If you had any other advice, kind of for kingdom builders out there, what would you want to share?
I would say I would focus more on the stewardship. Before, I used to pray for provision, right? Which we all, kind of focus too much a little bit on. I actually pray that God would equip me to be a better steward, right? Because that's ultimately what God wants to see. It's not how much, we we're able to accumulate or anything. It's actually what we do with it. And so that's actually my prayer, and what I would recommend to other entrepreneurs is pray for that you would become the best steward of whatever God entrusts you. That's my advice to kingdom builders.
I love that. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Pastor Luis. It's a great episode. And if this is your first time listening to the Hype Podcast, please like, comment, share this episode. Great advice from, a business leader that's gone through it all. And so thanks again for coming on the podcast, and we'll catch you next week. Cheers, guys.